Right, okay guys, welcome to another episode of That Was the Year That Was, and this week I'm taking a look at 1985 and we're going to concentrate on the ZX Spectrum. So in the news in 1985, on the 1st of January, the first mobile phone call in the UK was made. On the 10th of January, the Sinclair C5, a battery assisted recumbent tricycle designed by the British inventor Sir Clive Sinclair, was launched. 17th of January, British Telecom announces it's going to phase out its iconic red telephone boxes. I can't believe that was 1985, I thought that was maybe 10 years ago. Blimey, that was a long time ago. 23rd of January, a debate in the House of Lords is televised for the first time. 19th of February, EastEnders, the BBC soap opera set in the fictional London borough of Watford, or Walford I should say, debuts. Ricky! 3rd of March, the UK miners' strike involving at its peak 142,000 mine workers ends after 1 year. I can remember that, I've got real vivid memories of the miners' strike. I was working part-time at the time, and I remember actually there was guys out begging, and I remember I just had a part-time job. I remember giving money to these guys. Excuse me. 11th of March, Mohammed Al Fayed, or Fayed I should say, buys a London-based department store, Harrods. On 11th of May, 56 people are killed in the Bradford City Stadium fire. 13th of May, the Dire Straits album Brothers in Arms is released. It becomes the first compact disc to sell over 1 million copies. That is one of my most favouriteest albums. I play it all the time. I was actually playing it yesterday. 15th of May, Everton, who have already clinched their first European League title for 15 years, won the European Cup Winners' Cup. The 18th of May, Man United win the FA Cup for the 6th time in their history with a 1-0 win over Everton, ironically, in the final at Wembley Stadium. 29th of May, in the Heysel Stadium disaster at the European Cup final in Brussels, 39 football fans died and hundreds are injured. That's 11th of May, 56 people are killed in the Bradford Stadium fire, and then 18 days later, 39 people die in the Heysel Stadium disaster. Terrible, really, really sad. 6th of June, Birmingham unveils its bid to host the 1992 Summer Olympics, which includes plans for a new £66 million stadium. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that went to Los Angeles. Birmingham, Los Angeles, let me think. 13th of June, the James Bond film A View to a Kill is released, marking its final appearance by Roger Moore. I remember going to see that in Edinburgh, in the pictures. In July, 13th of July, Live Aid pop concert in London and Philadelphia raised over 50 million for famine relief in Ethiopia. In August, the Sinclair C5 ceases production after just 7 months and fewer than 17,000 units sold. That is very, very sad. September, 4th of September, the first photographs and films of the RMS Titanic wreckage are taken 73 years after it sank. 6th of September, the Scottish Exhibition and Conference Centre opens in Glasgow. Scotland national football team manager Jock Stein, 62 years old, collapses and dies from a heart attack at the end of his team's 1-1 draw with Wales at Ninian Park, Cardiff, which secured Scotland's place in the World Cup qualification playoff. 28th of September, a riot in Brixton erupts after an accidental shooting of a woman by police. 1 person dies in the riot, 50 are injured and more than 200 people are arrested. Man United, excellent start to the Football League First Division season sees them win their 10th league game in succession, leaving them well placed to win their first league title since 1967. 29th of September, Jeremy Bamber is rearrested upon his return to England after 2 weeks on holiday in France and charged with 5 counts of murder. I think that was the guy that actually murdered his mum and dad and sisters. Strange guy. Nothing of any note happened in October, other than the 19th of October, it was my birthday. Nothing of note happened in November. 4th of December, Scotland's World Cup qualification is secured a goalless draw with Australia in the playoff second leg in Sydney. 5th of September, it is announced that unemployment fell in November for the third month and now stands at 3,165,000 people. And finally, on the 25th of, sorry, I put my false teeth back in again, on the 25th of December, charitable organisation Comic Relief is launched. So yeah, that was kinda what was going on in the news in 1985. Music wise now, apparently this is true, this is the best selling top 10 singles in reverse order. And first, in 10th place, it was Love and Pride by King. 9th place, it was Take On Me by a-ha, love that song, still got the single now. 8th position, it was Feargal Sharkey, and it was something Heart, I can't remember I can't remember what the name of it was. Anyway, that was Feargal Sharkey. Number 7, it was Phyllis Nelson, and I think it was Move Closer. Number 6, it was Dancing in the Street by Mick Jagger and David Bowie. 5th place, it was Frankie by Sister Sledge. Up, I was going to say up 4 places. In position number 4, it was 19 by Paul Hardcastle. 3rd spot, I should say, was Madonna, Into the Groove. 2nd place, it was a god-awful I Know Him So Well by Elaine Page and Barbara Dixon. And in 1st place, it was Jennifer Rush. And in the movies, again, the top selling, the biggest grossing films of 1985. In 10th place, it was Spies Like Us. Never actually seen that film. 9th position, again a film I've never seen, was The Goonies. Yep, you heard it right, I have never ever seen it. Number 8 was a Harrison Ford film, Witness. Number 7 was The Jewel of the Nile, which I think was a sequel to The Jewel in the Crown, I think it was, starring Michael Douglas. Number 6, it was Cocoon, I think that was a Ron Howard film if I'm not mistaken. Number 5, Out of Africa. Number 4, The Colour Purple. 3rd place was Rocky 4. 2nd place was Rambo First Blood 2. No surprise at all, one of the best films ever made. In 1st position, it was Back to the Future. So that was kind of what was going on in the music and movie industry and also the news. So let's take a look at some games. Right, okay, kicking things off is the 4th Protocol. It was a strategy-based game based on the famous book. Now I'm sure Zap magazine gave it I think it was a sizzler. I don't think it got a gold medal. It might have got a gold medal, possibly. I don't know, but I did get a copy of this, and I simply couldn't figure out what it was supposed to be. I mean, you can see there, excuse me, it has got quite high resolution graphics. It's obviously trying to emulate a sort of a higher spec computer. But yeah, I have no idea what you're actually supposed to do here. But it did look quite impressive. Even now it looks quite impressive. When you think this is that Spectrum is running on, it's quite high res graphics. I think the C64 one was kind of similar looking. Now I don't know, was this based around the sort of the Cold War? Maybe it was, I don't really know. Certainly not a game you'd want to get bought for your Christmas. Well, Johnny, I've bought you a Spectrum and one game, the 4th Protocol. Yeah, I could imagine that would be one of the games that would probably just get left or probably taped over. So that's the 4th Protocol. Next up is a slightly more user-friendly game. This is Action Biker. Or Clumsy Colin, I think it also got known as. Clumsy Colin was a character who was used to advertise Skips, that polystyrene prawn cocktail snack by, wasn't Walker's? Was it KP, I think it was? I can't remember. But yeah, it was a slightly kind of odd tie-in to a snack. Now this is obviously the Spectrum one. This looks completely different from the C64 one. 64 one was more a kind of sprawling pseudo 3D landscape, whereas this is obviously just two-dimensional. In the C64 one, excuse me, you had to collect parts of a motorbike, and eventually you had to upgrade your motorbike, and then you could eventually take part in a race. I don't know if this is the same. It was a budget game, and I mean, I think it was generally well regarded. But in the C64 one, you don't get any other bikes, so it's obviously a wee bit different. Yeah, that's Action Biker. And next up is a game called Adrian Mole, or to give it its full title, The Secret Diary of Adrian Mole. Now this again was a kid's book, and it was quite literally what it says. It was supposed to be a diary of this sort of school teenager. It did, I mean, it was stupidly successful. It was turned into a TV programme, and obviously a video game. Wasn't something that I really had any interest in at all. But it was kind of, it was an adventure game, but it gave you options. So you had to, it would give you options of what you wanted to do. So you would, you know, you had maybe 3 options, and you would pick what one you wanted to go with. So there you go. I will make medical history. Choose one of the following for me. Keep quiet about it. Tell my mother. Too slow to read it there. Which of the following shall I do? Ignore the tongue ache, consult the library, encyclopedia, or book an appointment with Dr. Gray. So yeah, it was all about making choices. It wasn't something I was interested in at all. But I think it was, I mean, the actual box, in fact, I've actually got this game. I bought it in a pack on eBay. It's got a diary. It's quite a good sort of looking box thing. So anyway, that was Adrian Mole. Now moving on to something that's a lot more familiar to most viewers, is Alien 8 by Ultimate Software. You don't really need me to tell you anything about this game, other than it was a sequel, I believe, to Night Lore. One of many sequels. Oh, was there another? I'm trying to think. I think this was, I mean, Batman. No, Batman was a different company. That was Ocean, wasn't it? Yeah. So I think this was the last sort of isometric. I mean, you had Nightshade and all that kind of stuff, but this one literally was, if you changed the little robot to the little saber man thing, then it could have been the same game. It really could have. I always remember watching my mate completing this. I went up to his house, and then I left him to go and play squash. When I got there, when I arrived, he was playing this game. And then I left to go and play squash, and then when I came back about an hour and a half later, he was still playing it, and he eventually completed it. I was always jealous of how good these games looked. Whilst I wasn't a fan of them, because I never really, I couldn't figure them out, because I couldn't play it on my C64, I was always jealous of the graphics, because it was nice, even if it was a bit pink. I always just found it very difficult to actually see where you're supposed to be. I mean, it'd be nice if it had the, you could change the angle that you could in Ant Attack. No, the graphics in that attack are a lot simpler looking than obviously this one. And it's got that quintessential Spectrum moving sound. So that's Alien 8. Right, next one. This is Ark of Yesod by Thor Computer Software. This was a really, really nice looking platformer. I mean, there were so many platformers that came out on the 8-bit machines, but this one really stood out. Really, really nice animation. Graphics well defined. They looked really nice. Even nice use of colour as well. Sound was minimal, as you would expect. Nice use of colour though. I like the wee kind of sort of the shading on that, that little kind of, I assume it's a stone ledge thing. Yeah, this was certainly probably one of the best looking Spectrum games. Really, really nice looking. And I think you eventually get a mould, don't you? I'm sure you do. I'm assuming you've got to find them or something. I did have this in the C64. Well, for some strange reason, they always just look that wee bit better in the Spectrum. Don't know why. Apart from the colour. Man, as always, I am completely pants at it. I'm stuck. So that is Ark of Yesod. Right, moving on. This is Archon. Now this is quite an unusual game. It's kind of like chess. But rather than just like, you know, taking a player, you've actually got to fight it out. I always think it always reminds me of the game of chess you see in Star Wars, where when two sort of pieces go into the same square, they actually fight it out, and that's what this game was. I had it in the C64. I think it originally came out on the Atari 800. It's actually quite a good game, quite tactical. Very, very basic looking, but yeah, here we go. So you got two players. And then they'll basically have to fight it out. It opens up into a little screen. Very, very basic, but actually quite good. Because different characters have different strengths, and some characters were better against other characters, and weaker characters were better against different characters, if that makes any sense. Some were fast, some were stronger. Can't remember what the eyes are. I don't know what these were. There was a sequel to this. What was it called again? It wasn't. Was it called Archon 2? It might have actually. Yeah, that's right. You had spells as well, which you could use. So that is Archon. Right, now we did mention the film. This was the best-selling film of 1985. This is Back to the Future, the video game. Now, I never ever, as much as I loved the film, I never actually played the video game of it. I remember reading the review in Zap, and it just looked shit. It really did. I don't know how it actually reviewed, but I've never ever really been a fan of games based on films. I just don't think they work. I mean, this game could have been awesome. When you think of the different action sequences from the film, if the film had come out when the PlayStation was out, you could have had some really cool flying sequences in the car, and the sort of fight scene with Biff, that kind of stuff. But unfortunately, the technology wasn't around back in the 80s to really do a game like this justice. But I think they'd have been better off going for some kind of spy huntery arcade type game rather than a sort of an adventure. I'm assuming that's the dock, is it, with the white hair, possibly? Yeah, I mean, this game doesn't really fill you with excitement. It was a fast-paced, action-type film, and nah, not good. So that is Back to the Future, and that should be left back in the past. Sticking with the word back, it's Back to School. Now, I think I may have spelt that wrong. I think it's SKOOL. I've technically spelt it correct, but, they deliberately went for a misspelling. Not this game, but the original one, School Days, which will feature, I believe, later on in this video. It was one of these games, it was always a game that they had running on a Spectrum in the shop window in John Menzies. It was there was a lot to take in. It's a clever game. It's a game that would only exist in the UK. It's quintessentially British. And the thing is, as a teenager, you could relate to the game because, we all went to school, and just, the different types of teachers, the different characters, the different pupils. And what really, an absolute stroke of genius with this game and also the original School Days was the fact that you could change the names of the teachers and also the names of the pupils, and you could put your own names in. So that just gave it a real kind of personal touch. Again, it did come out in the C64, but it was always a game that you remember it on the Spectrum. Again, it needs the detailed graphics. I mean, the attention to detail in this is really nice. You can basically wander about the school. You can write on the blackboard. I think the idea was to try and, I can't remember what the idea was. You had to try and collect these little, I don't know, pictures or something. I think it was. That was certainly in the original one. I'm not quite sure about this one. But the fact that you had to be in different classes at a certain time, it kind of gave it quite a realistic feel. But it's a great game. It really is. So, yep, that is Back to School. Next is Barry McGuigan's Boxing, probably the best boxing game on, certainly on the C64. I played this a lot. Now, if you've never heard of Barry McGuigan, he was a world champion. I think he was a flyweight or featherweight. Came from, I think it was Northern Ireland he came from, mid-80s. I can still remember watching his fights with my dad. In fact, if you're a boxing fan, you'll probably know him as a commentator. I'm sure he does commentating boxing now. He was always a nice guy, but he was, unlike Frank Bruno, who's a nice guy, Barry McGuigan was really successful. Now, I'm sure Frank Bruno's boxing will feature in this video as well. I'm sure that came out in 1985, but we shall see. So the idea behind this game is fairly straightforward. You've basically got to knock your opponent out. Now you can start off as an amateur and work your way up, or I believe you can also start off as a professional, and I think you start in like 10th position, and then you can fight either the guy directly above you or the person directly below you. But you've got to kind of work your way up. Now I never actually got to beat Barry McGuigan. I think I got to 2nd place or 3rd place, but it's a really good boxing game. So that is Barry McGuigan's Boxing. And next game is Beachhead 2, the sequel to the original Beachhead. Now, like its predecessor, it's a multi-level game. The only thing that annoyed me about this game was it was also multi-load. The original Beachhead was all a single load, but then the graphics on the sequel was much better. But I always preferred the original. The animation on the C64 especially, I mean, animation in this is actually really good. I mean, look at the animation for the wee guys climbing the wall. You're not going to see it. There you go. Yeah, that is really nice animation, but on the C64, because it was colour as well, it was just awesome. Plus the C64 one had some nice speech. I need to stop talking about the C64. This is a Spectrum video. But yeah, the idea behind this first level is you can play either the Dictator or the Allies. In that first level, you've got to try and shoot all the soldiers, or if you're playing the soldiers, you've got to try and get to the bottom. I hated this level. One person controls a gun turret, and you've got to try and allow your little prisoner, you'll see him at the sort of the middle of the screen, he's walking from left to right, and there's all manner of little booby traps and that kind of stuff, and you've got to try and keep the path clear. I just thought it was a crap idea, I really did, and it was also really difficult as well. I wasn't a fan of this game at all. A couple of the levels were okay, but this level I just thought was stupid. I mean, what is that little line moving along the bottom? Just rubbish. I think there was about, I don't know, 4 or 5 levels all in. The last level you had a guy throwing a knife, which was quite good, but yeah, I wasn't a big fan of Beachhead 2. Next up is one of my favouriteest video games of any system, and this is Bounty Bob Strikes Back. This is a sequel to Miner 2049er. I actually did a video of that a couple of days ago. This is as simple as games come, but it's an absolute cracker, it really is. It's just playability to an absolute T. It's awesome. The idea of this game is to basically complete every level. Now you'll see there's all kinds of little baddies. I'm seeing all kinds, they all look the same. And to kill them you've got to pick up one of the objects that litters the level, and when you pick up an object, the wee baddies flash and they start smiling oddly for about 10 seconds, and when they're smiling you can kill them. After that they will kill you. And I've just died. So pick up a wee object. What am I doing here? Oh, there's a little bit of yeah, the idea is you've got to walk over all of the platform. You'll see there it's kind of filled in. Once you cover all the once you've walked across all the bits of platform, then you get a little bonus for any time that's got left, and then you move on to the next level. It's simplicity itself, and I mean the original Miner 2049er was the game that inspired Matthew Smith to write Manic Miner. Arse. And it's also got one of the most original high score tables ever. You basically pick what you want, and then you've got a little automated bulldozer either side with a little sort of platform thing along the bottom. So that was Bounty Bob Strikes Back. This next one, this is Brian Bloodaxe, By the Edge. Bonus point if you can recognise the tune, it's Monty Python's Flying Circus. It's an odd game. It's actually quite good, this. Now it's not crashed. I'm quite sure some people actually did that. How do we start it? Oh, here we go. Right, okay. Yeah, it's probably one of the ugliest games you'll ever play, but it's actually quite good fun. Again, it's in the vein of Dynamite Dan, Manic Miner, you name it. You know, there was a plethora of platform games back in the 80s. Yeah, some weird and wonderful screens. I could just imagine if you tried to force a child into playing this game, they would just look at you and laugh. But you know what? That's what we had. When you only had £1 or £2 for your pocket money, that's the kind of game you'd buy. But it's actually worthwhile playing. It is a nice little game despite its horrible looks. Yeah, so that is Brian Bloodaxe. Right, this next one, it's Brian Jack's Superstar Challenge. Oh dearie me. Yeah, now this was obviously jumping on the bandwagon on two things. It was jumping on the bandwagon from the Superstars, which was actually a really good sports competition thing. It took celebrities, sporting celebrities, and pitted them against one another, doing a variety of gym tests, dips, swimming, cycling, you name it, rowing, etc. Yeah, so it was using that, and obviously the game, it was based very much on what do you call it, track and field. Now I did play it on the C64, and if I remember, it was really difficult. Now the reason I've picked Brian Jacks is because he basically ruled supreme. He was a judo champion, I think he was, and he basically kicked everybody else's arse. Nobody could get near the guy. I mean, they had to do like as many dips in a minute, and he did like something like 150. It was just absolutely ridiculous. He was as fit as a butcher's dog, he really was. But yeah, not a bad little game this, but I just found it way too difficult. Really tough in the C64. Now I think you could have two players, I'm sure you could. But it was like a single load, and it did have a lot of events. So, you know, it wasn't a bad game, like I said, it was just a bit difficult. I found though, there again, maybe possibly playing against another player would have made it a wee bit more playable. Now, for some reason, I have got absolutely no idea how to get the speed going. Hence the reason I'm hardly moving. So, anyway, that's Brian Jack's Superstar Challenge. Next up is a game that we're all very familiar with. This is Cauldron. Released by Palace Software. Again, it's a game that I've got a love-hate relationship to it. I mean, aesthetically, you know, and you know, the sound and graphics are just beautiful. Especially in the Commodore 64, it was a really beautiful game, but it was completely and utterly broken with the game mechanics. You could only fly if you took off through these little gaps in the trees, which, you know, is not a big deal. But the problem being is you've got a health, or magic as they call it, you can see it there, it's 43%. Now, every time you fire a bullet or fire magic, you lose 1%. And every time one of these bats collides with you, you lose, I don't know what it is, 5% or something. It's just insane. I mean, you could literally go from having full health to being dead in the space of, 30 seconds. So because of that, the game was impossible. I don't care what anybody says. I don't believe for 1 second anyone actually managed to complete the game. Because even when you can land, and then there's little sort of power-up stations which will replenish your energy. But the problem being, when you're walking towards them, the guys will still attack you. Look, there you go, 4-0, there we go, that's game over. Or 1 life gone. Yeah, just insanely difficult. I mean, look at that, I've just started again and I'm down to 79%. And you've got to walk back before you can take off. So just from me walking to pick the key up and walking back, I've lost, there you go, 50 odd % energy. Just ridiculous. And it's a shame because, like I says, if they just changed the difficulty curve in it, made it that you didn't lose energy when you're firing, I mean, that's just ridiculous. Then it would have been, if they'd made it more playable, it would have probably got like a Zap Sizzler and a Crash Smash, because it's a beautiful looking game, but just they made it way too difficult. I find it hard to believe that they didn't actually realise that at the time. So, yep, that is Cauldron. Next up is another budget game. This is Chicken Chase. Now, I can't remember what part you play, but you basically play the part of a large cock, no laughing at the back. And you've got to, I think you've got to protect your eggs from, is that a rat or a hedgehog? I've got no idea. I'm not quite sure how you actually, I think you can peck them or something. Graphics are nice. I remember playing this in the C64 and it was just really, it was like expanded sprites. There were huge big expanded sprites, but on this they're actually really nice and detailed. I'm trying to peck this guy, but I can't seem to manage it. Oh, was that a chick? What the hell happened there? I'm assuming, is that a chick that just hatched or something? Right, I'm assuming that's my, that's the mum coming out and battering me over the head with what I can only presume is a rolling pin. It was one of the earliest Firebird games, and I think it's actually pretty good. Looks like I was getting attacked with a rat. I'm assuming it's a rat. Yeah, that certainly looks like a rat. And you've got worms there as well. You can see there. I think you can eat them, possibly. There he goes. So he's going to go and look for an egg, I think. Yeah, that's Chicken Chase. And sticking with chickens, it's Chuckie Egg 2. The original Chuckie Egg needs no introduction. It's widely regarded as one of the classic platform games, not just on the Spectrum, also on the BBC. Now there's a lot of there's a split decision as to what version of Chuckie Egg is the best. Some people say the Spectrum, some people say the BBC. I know in the C64 it wasn't the best, but this was the sequel, and yeah, it just never got held in the same regard. People just never really liked it. The original one, it was like single screen. You had to complete a screen, a bit like Manic Miner. You had to move through the levels, complete a level before you could get, move on. Whereas this one, I suppose this is more like Jet Set Willy. It's like open plan, so you can go from one screen to the other without actually completing it as such. But yeah, I don't think Chuckie Egg 2, it didn't work. I don't know whether it was a bad game or not, but it certainly, The original was, like I says, the original is held as an absolute classic, whereas nobody ever really talks about Chucky Egg 2. I love the noise I'm walking. That is that quintessential Spectrum sound effect. I'm assuming I need to try and get that bone, which I'm assuming is a bone, which I then give to the dog. But I have got no idea why I can't seem to pick up the bone. Is it possible you've got to press a button or something? I'm not quite sure. And it's obviously not like that. Anyway, that's Chucky Egg 2. Next up is another from one Stonewall classic, well not that the last one was, to a Stonewall classic, and this is Commando, released in 1985 by Elite. Now you all know about this game. I never really played the Spectrum one at all back in the day, I mean, because to my mind the C64 one will always be the version to play. It might not be the best version of Commando, but with that Rob Hubbard track, it just makes it unmissable. But yeah, like I says, I never really got to play the Spectrum one. I could have played it when my mate had a Spectrum, but I wasn't interested in the Spectrum. I just thought it was like a wee toy. But you know what, looking at the graphics now, it's fantastic. It really is. Yeah, it's monochrome, but it's done a really good version of the arcade game. I think the Spectrum one had all the levels, whereas the C64 one only had 3 levels. I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, the Spectrum one, it plays so well. It really does. It feels like the arcade one. It really does. I mean, they've done an amazing job of it. Again, it's got that Spectrum sound. Looks like he was going to run through the gate and then disappeared. But yeah, I mean, this is one of these games, if you've never played it, you've absolutely got to play it. It's a cracking game. Yep, that's Commando. Right, next up is Confusion. And it's a puzzle game. You've got to try and defuse the bombs. Now I did, was this by Addictive Software? Something rings a bell, it was. I'm just doing that purely from memory. It was a really good game. I mean, the thing that I liked about it was Rob Hubbard that did the music. Quite a basic bit of music, but you know, any bit of music by Rob Hubbard was always worth listening to. So that was the reason I played this game, or it was the reason I loaded it. But then when you actually start to play it, you realise it's actually a good game. Very frustrating. You basically, it's like one of these little puzzle games that you got, you know, I was going to say out of a Christmas cracker. You basically got to move the squares into the space to try and rearrange them to send a little ball thing to defuse the bomb. So that is Confusion. Next is Cosmic Wartoad. Now, I'll be honest, this is a it's an early Ocean game, and I'm fully aware of it. I remember seeing all the adverts for it, and I think this is the first time I've ever actually loaded it. Never even seen the game at all, so I'm really not quite sure what I'm doing here. Slime points, toad points. It looks like I'm moving some sort of fish, or is it sperm or something? Who knows? I really don't know. Yeah, some of the games that Ocean put out were a bit, well, not just Ocean, they were a bit highbrow, a bit wacky for me. So I've really got no idea what I'm doing here. I don't even remember if it reviewed particularly well. It was an early game. Well, I'm saying it's 1985 right enough. But yeah, there's a slug at the bottom. No idea. That chainsaw as well. I dare say if you played, if you had instructions and actually read them, unlike anything I do, then you would have a modicum of idea of what you're meant to do. So that was Cosmic Wartoad. Now, next game by Durrell Software, I think. This is Critical Mass. Now, I did do an 8-bit face-off kerfuffle in this game a few months ago, and I really could not get to grips with what I was supposed to be doing. I know the comments on the video basically said the game was pretty crap. I'm going to die here, I think. Yeah, and now I'm what looks like a little spaceman on a jetpack. Now there is an arrow that I believe you've got to try and follow, but I've really got no idea. You've got to avoid these big worms. I think they will kill you, or at least they absorb energy. They don't so much eat you, they just slowly kill you. It's really fiddly to control though. It's bizarre. I mean, the graphics in the Spectrum are nice, but you know what? Good graphics don't make a good game. But again, possibly if you actually knew what you're supposed to be doing, then you know. I mean, the graphics here are nice. I don't know what that big ball thing is. No idea what's going on there. You seem to bounce around the screen as well quite a bit. But it's possibly one of these games, if you actually had a clue what you're doing, then you might actually get somewhere, but I have no idea. Yeah. That's Critical Mass. Right, now this one is regarded as a classic amongst Spectrum owners. This is Cyclone. Now, I apologise now about being crap at playing these games, but I believe with this one you've got to try and rescue people. I was going to say it kind of reminds me, well, it does remind me of a very early Desert Strike, that game that came out in Amiga back in the 90s. I mean, you know, scrolling wise it's really nice. You're obviously piloting a helicopter, and I think you're looking for people to rescue. I can't remember. There's another helicopter game which I'm getting muddled up. What was it called again? Was it Tornado Low Level? Was that? That wasn't a helicopter. Oh, there we go. Oh, I've just died. Yeah, as you can see, I've practiced this game a lot. Let's give it another go. But I think this is one of these games that's certainly it's looked at as a classic game. I think it's in the, you know, the top 100 Spectrum games. So if you want to kind of look at some of the old games of the Spectrum, then check this game out, because I'm making a complete hash of it. I'm actually trying to play the game, but I do know a lot of people thought it was an excellent game. Quite an effective little the way the sort of rotor blades, the rotor blade is turning. Oh, I've ran out of fuel, I think. Yeah, trust me, it is a good game. You just need to read the instructions, and I'm sure you'll do better than me. That's Cyclone. Right, this next one. This is Death Star Interceptor. Yep, and you heard it there, it's got speech. Which on a 48K Spectrum is pretty damned impressive. So what you're trying to do here is you're trying to move from side to side, and you're trying to get into the centre of the screen. Once you get into the centre of the screen, then you do get taken onto the sort of main kind of game. Hey, I think that's it. There we go. Right, we're now into the main screen, and you see Earth moving off to the side. Now remember, this had some good sound effects. Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's not vector graphics, but you know, it does kind of feel a bit like Star Wars, and they've really nailed the sound. I do remember playing this with my mates. It was the one of the few games that I wanted to play. I always thought it was really good. No, I think there's other levels that I can't honestly say. And you can see there the Death Star, we'll call it the Death Star, top left is gradually getting closer. Even the wee stars kind of change colour, which is a nice little touch. Yeah, that's nice. That's a nice game. That was Death Star Interceptor. And the next one is Dragon Talk. Now, I believe this was by Andrew... not Andrew Hewson. What's he called again? I've completely forgot his name. It will come to me. Anyway, it was released by Hewson. And this is the first time I think I've actually seen the game. It uses a very sort of original graphic style. You'll see there, I mean, he floats along, I can only assume on his magic, and the sort of backgrounds, it's kind of like a sort of a pseudo 3D effect. It's quite bizarre. But again, I remember this game being really highly thought of. Again, it was an early game, 1985. Yeah, I mean, I think there's... Is that would you call it a graphic adventure, I think it was? I think that's probably what you would call it. But, you know, visually it's really nice. It has got a really distinct kind of style, the way it kind of scrolls about like that. Never really seen that style of graphic before in the Spectrum. I've never really seen it in anything after it. You know, they could have so easily have gone for a sort of a static screen like Attic Attack or whatever, you know, but he's gone for a... It's kind of like a... It's almost like a kind of open sandbox type game. Very, very clever. But yeah, that's Dragon Talk. Right, from another track and field game. This is Daley Thompson's Super Test. Now, you don't need me to tell you about Daley Thompson's Decathlon. It was an absolute smash game. It was massive. It was released by Ocean. It was a massive game. It destroyed literally thousands of Kempston joysticks. It was based on track and field. Now, this was a sequel, and I don't think that it got the same... I don't think... I mean, I remember playing this. I never actually had it on the C64. I didn't actually recall it being out in the Commodore 64, though I do know now that it was on the C64, but I never had it. I would have probably bought it if I'd known. But yeah, I don't recall this getting the same love that the original got. It was more strategy. I mean, it did have a lot in common with the one we looked at earlier on, the Brian Jacks Superstar Challenge. I think it probably had more events, and probably graphically it's possibly a better game, but you know, Daley Thompson's Decathlon was the original. I mean, the character they're running was the character they used in Daley Thompson's Decathlon. Now, was that programmed by Joffa Smith? I think it might be. I'm not 100% sure. Yeah, you can see there the graphics are really, really nice. I don't actually know if I'm doing particularly well here. Probably not. I would assume you could play two players as well. be nice to have had a wee drop sound effects. Yeah, Jonathan Smith. Yep, you can tell by the animation. In fact, yeah, if you look at the bottom right, the guy at the bottom right, he was the main sort of sprite in Hypersports. So I'm assuming this is quite a good game. Because Joffa Smith, he was the, you know, if you think of John Carmack or John Romero as being the sort of the PC programmers, Joffa Smith was to the Spectrum what these guys were to the PC. He was an absolute sublime coder, and sadly passed away quite a long time ago actually. Giant slalom, yep, skiing. Looks like a clown actually. I've got no idea how to actually speed up. It's interesting that his skis are black, but depending on how he's turning, his skis go red, see that? That's obviously a limitation of the Spectrum, but yeah, I'm sure this is a good game. Like I said, it's not one that I really played, but given it was programmed with Joffa Smith, I bet it's worth checking out. That was Daley Thompson's Super Test. This one is Dynamite Dan, published by Mirrorsoft. Now this was, I'm going to say jumping on the bandwagon, jumping on the platform bandwagon. I mean, there was so many of these games, but to be fair, this was probably one of the better ones. I think this did receive a lot of favourable reviews. I mean, the graphics are really nice. There's a lot going on. The main sprite is detailed. I was never keen on the main sprite. I thought it looked quite ugly actually. They've tried to kind of make him look realistic. Now there was a sequel, I think, originally titled Dynamite Dan 2. There's a large cheese to pick up, I think. Maybe not. How do we pick up the cheese? Ah, right, you've got to kind of take a run at it. Yeah, you can see there, there's this game has been influenced by Manic Miner. There's toilets and there's all these wacky sort of baddies and aliens. Some killer fly heads as well. I was never really into these kind of games. These were more Spectrum games. But yeah, that received great reviews. That is Dynamite Dan. Yep, and Talk of the Devil. So not even a year later they brought out the sequel, obviously wanting to capitalise on the popularity of the first one. So it's kind of, I would assume it's just pretty much more of the same. Yeah, Spectrum owners, they had these games in abundance, but I wasn't really a fan of them. They always seem to lend themselves better to the Spectrum. I don't know whether it's because the Spectrum had the higher resolution, the graphics always looked that bit more detailed, but then there's lots of really nice platform games on the C64 and Amstrad, Atari. But these games just seem to be, you know, prolific because they didn't really rely on sort of hardware scrolling or, you know, super sound effects. It was all about kind of flip screen. Listen to that sound, that is just a pure Spectrum 48K buzzer. But they managed to get some really nice little tunes out of it. Yeah, that was Dynamite Dan 2. Now, you know, again, this game needs no introduction. This is Elite. Now, I'll apologise now about the lack of being able to play this game. It's been such a long time. I've never played the Spectrum one. I did play the C64 one a lot. I think I got to... What did I get to? I got to Dangerous, I think it was. Now, I think the Spectrum one is probably it's probably more capable at a game like this because obviously the Spectrum could do vector graphics, whereas the C64 couldn't. I do believe though that the BBC is the best version to play. It was the original, but yeah, even the Spectrum had this. It was one of the original open-ended games. You know, you could have played it. There was really no end to it. I don't think you could ever actually complete the game. I mean, the idea behind the game was to basically get your ranking up by making as much money, upgrading your ship, killing as many baddies, and you went up through the ranks, and once you got to elite, then that was it. I would imagine you could probably keep playing it. But I says I got to Dangerous, and then I kind of got bored, and I moved on to I moved on to something else. But it took, you know, before you could buy a docking computer, which would obviously dock for you, but before you had that, you had to dock manually, and it was savagely difficult. You had to align yourself up. You basically had to fly directly under the space station. You had to aim for the planet and the space station so that the planet's surface was below you and the space station was directly above you, and then when you got directly underneath, you would have to turn up and you would see the entrance. There was only one. Now if you look to the left there, you'll see where it's rotating, there is a little hatch. That's where I've basically got to try and go. I've got to try and align myself. Now that took a lot of practice. That was half the battle. You know, unless you could dock the computer, it was a waste of time. So yeah, you need to kind of come around and try it from a different angle. You had to be perfectly aligned. You'll see there, it's also the space station is also rotating, so you didn't just have to line up with it. You had to stay aligned as you were approaching it. You had to rotate at the same time. Now, obviously, if you're under 30 years old, you've probably never even heard of this game, but you may be aware of Elite Dangerous, which is on PC. Well, that was basically this was the granddaddy. This was the one that started it all. You've got your little so there we go. That's where I'm flying. You've got to try and line it up. Try and get exactly in the centre. Now this is so difficult. Line it up and try and counter rotate so that basically it's not turning round. Like I said, it's easier said than done. If you don't do it perfectly. Hey, there we go. I've still got it. That's elite. Right, next is Enigma Force. This was a sequel to Shadowfire, I believe. It's kind of a graphic, icon-driven, adventure-y type game. It was a game that I had no interest in. I mean, I think it got really good reviews because the graphics were good, the sound were good, but I just found it dull. You know, it was all about icons. I don't think it really had any action sort of sequences at all. And it was the same, you know, Shadowfire was the same, and I think this kind of was just another more of the same thing basically. Yeah, so you use a kind of crosshair and you move over icons, but I've got no idea what to do, none at all. I mean, it's probably a bit more entertaining than the first one, because the first one had no action sequences at all, whereas at least this one, although it's still icon driven, you get to sort of see in real time what's actually happening, so it does look a wee bit more interesting. Don't think I ever played this on the C64. I did have Shadowfire on the Commodore 64. Again, it had nice music, but I just could not get into it at all. It was more sort of tactical than it certainly wasn't an arcade game. Yeah, that is Enigma Fire. Now, moving on from, not Automania, what were they called again? Oh, I can't even remember the name of them, it'll come to me. Microgen, yeah. This is Everyone's a Wally. Now, the first Microgen game that I can recall that had this character called Wally Week, I think he was called. It was called Automania. You had to build a car. Then came along Pyjamarama, which I liked. I really enjoyed that. I had that on the C64, and I got so far into it. I think I must have been about 99% completed, but I never actually did complete it. And then this was the next one called Everyone's a Wally. Now, what made this one slightly different was you could actually change between, was it 3 different characters? And you had to walk around different locations and collect different bits and pieces, and then you'd have to swap between characters. So you can see there's the kind of punk, can't remember what he was called, but I don't know what you do. You press a button to swap between characters, and different characters can get into different levels and access different things. So it's a kind of strategy adventure, but it had nice graphics. But it just kind of, I don't know, I never had it on the C64. In fact, I did, I think. I had a copy of it, and I never played it. It was a bit too complicated. And I think that's his wife. Is that Wilma? I think her name is. There is a hippie, and there's also a baby as well. And I think there's a guy that wears a woolen hat. Now there's a hippie, yep. And there's a punk again. But yeah, it was, lots of folk loved the game. That's Everyone's a Wally. Right, now, following on from Night Lore, I mean, Night Lore shook the establishment with its game, you know, with Night Lore, I should say. And so other companies jumped on the bandwagon and tried to replicate the I can't remember what it was called again, the sort of 3D technology, you know, for the graphics. And some of them were better than others, and I know Fairlight was one that really, it was awesome. It really was. The detail in the graphics, I think you could interact with things a bit more. I mean, if you look at the Night Lore, everything was really big and sort of chunky looking, whereas the screens in Fairlight were a lot more kind of widespread or more open, because the graphics were smaller, so you could get kind of more. You could get more things in it, but it really looked nice. I remember playing it in the C64, and it's completely unplayable. It just moves so slow. I'm sure somebody could probably convert the C64 one to run better. But yeah, it was unplayable in the Commodore 64, which absolutely gutted me, because I always remember thinking, wow, I can now get to play Fairlight, because it's a nice, is it Bo Janberg, I think his name was? He did produce a sequel called Fairlight 2, funnily enough. But yeah, the way you could sort of push things about and collect things, it was really, really well done. You can see there, when there's nothing moving on screen, he zips along at a fair old pace. And then when you get someone else moving, obviously things start to kind of slow up a bit. But yeah, there were so many of these games, they were all jumping on the bandwagon, but that was definitely one of the best. That was Fairlight. Right, this is Falcon Patrol 2, the sequel to Falcon Patrol 1. Well, it's just called Falcon Patrol. Falcon Patrol is one of the first games I played on my C64. The first one you shot down, I think it was jets, what do you call it, Harrier jump jets, or at least that's what you controlled, I think. The second one, it was helicopters, and I never really enjoyed the second one the same. Don't know why, just, you know, sometimes sequels just don't, they're just not as good as the originals for, you know, for whatever reason. But it's I don't know why I died here. Yeah, it's a fairly linear, basic sort of horizontal shoot 'em up. I'm assuming you can't run into the explosions because I think I must be getting killed there. Yeah, looking at it now, graphics are fairly basic. It's obviously over a sort of desert land scene. I'm assuming it's like Libya or Afghanistan or Syria or something like that. Somewhere in the Middle East with lots of sand and oil refineries and whatever. Wrecked buildings. Ah, you can shoot down diagonally, I didn't realise that. I don't know why I keep dying. Anyway, that's Falcon Patrol 2. Right, this is another one that I've done a face-off kerfuffle. This is Fighting Warrior. Yeah, it was kind of bandied about. It came along just after Exploding Fist, Way of the Exploding Fist. Now that's a fantastic game. And so when this game came out, I thought, oh, this is going to be good. And it's just dull. I mean, you've seen everything you have that the game's got to offer. There's nothing else there at all. It's just hold the joystick to the left and keep pressing the fire button until you kill the baddie, and then you walk to the right and you just keep going on. It's very, very limited. I don't think there's anything else actually happens in the game. I remember playing it in the Commodore 64 and thinking it was absolutely garbage compared to the Spectrum one. However, when I did my face-off kerfuffle, I actually think that I rated the Commodore 64 one higher because it had some decent sound, it had some decent music, which kind of alleviated the tedium and boringness of the game a wee bit. But it's a dull game, really dull. Yeah, that's Fighting Warrior. This next one, Finders Keepers. It was the first game in this series. There was a number of games that came out with using the same sort of engine. It's a graphical, platformy type adventure game where you've got commands. I mean, this game, again, lots of folk love this game. It was a budget game, and for a budget game, it was actually really detailed. It did look really nice. Nice use of colour, quite a deep wee game. Again, it was, I don't know, I did have it in the C64, but I never really, I'm always more an arcade, twitchy type, arcade action type game, and this was more your everyone's a wally, where you've got to think about what you need to do, and where do you need to go, and what do you need to pick up, and what do you need to buy, and it's like a thinking man's platform game, and nah, never really a fan of that. But like I says, was it David Jones? Something niggles me. David Jones wrote this, and he went on to become quite a prolific programmer, I believe. But there was a few, I can't remember what the sequels were to this, but I think this was or was it One Man and His Droid? Was that the original? I can't remember. I think that was by the same sort of people, same programmer. But yeah, you look at the graphics, really nice, detailed little graphics. I think Spectrum owners, they seem to lap up games where you have to explore, whereas I couldn't really be bothered with things like that. I was all about shooting things and instant instant action. And every room had its own little name as well. I mean, nice graphics. So yeah, that was Finders Keepers. Now this next one, this one holds a special place in my heart. This is Formula One. Now the reason I've got a soft spot for this is because many years ago, back in 1985, whenever it was, my mate who had the Spectrum, I had the C64, we decided we would swap computers for the day, or I think we swapped it for 2 days. And so he got my C64 with disc drive and all the discs, and I basically got his collection of C90 games, C90 tapes, and I was just going through them, loading them up, switching it off, loading it up, playing it for 2 minutes, switching it off, until this game loaded, and I thought, oh, I wonder what this is. And basically, it's like Football Manager, but with Formula One cars. It's very, very basic. You pick what driver you want to drive. You've got a limited budget. You've got to pick what kind of engine, what kind of repairs, what's your crew's going to be. And then once you've done all that, you don't actually get to do anything. You basically, so it kind of gives you a rating. Yeah, you've got to have your car has got to be above 50% to take parts. I don't think I'm even in this one. But once you get the race, this is what you get. That is it. And yeah, it's, for some reason it was just strangely compulsive, and I sat up all night and played this game. Sadly, it was never ever ported to the Commodore 64. I don't think it was ported to anything at all. Now, I did do a video of this. I did a video called Why I Love, and it's where I basically look at games, why I love them. And the programmer actually commented on my video, which was awesome, absolutely awesome. But yeah, it's a simple looking game, but it was just fiercely addictive, it really was. So that was Formula One. Right, next is Frank Bruno's boxing. Now you're thinking, who the hell was Frank Bruno? He was a boxer, British boxer back in the 80s. He actually fought Mike Tyson. You're probably thinking, who's Mike Tyson? Well, Mike Tyson was probably the scariest boxer you would ever imagine. Forget your Anthony Joshua or your whatever it is, your world champions. Mike Tyson was an absolute animal. And Frank Bruno was an English boxer. He had an amazing physique. I mean, he really was. He looked like someone out of He-Man, chiselled body. And but the problem was he was just simply too much a nice guy. He did fight Mike Tyson and got absolutely annihilated. Frank Bruno did eventually go on to win the world championship, though I think most people believe that his opponent wasn't really a particularly difficult opponent, you know what I mean? And Frank Bruno, he won it once and then I think he lost it again, and that was it. But yeah, this was basically, it was Elite's take on Punch-Out by Nintendo. Multi-load game, you get to fight different opponents. I did have it in the C64, wasn't a big fan of it. It was really blocky graphics again. On the Spectrum it did look better, I think. But yeah, I mean, it was rated fairly highly. And you just had to basically try and suss out the weak spot on each opponent and can you work your way through them. That was Frank Bruno's boxing. Right, next up, this is one weird game, and I've featured this in multiple videos. Most notably, one of the videos I did with Kozer, Frankie Goes to Hollywood. This was programmed by a company called Denton Designs, and it was published by Ocean, and it was based on the group Frankie Goes to Hollywood, they were a massive group. They came out 84, 85. They were absolutely huge. They had a song called Relax, which had a bit of profanity in it. So Radio 1 decided not to play it, and of course with them banning it, it subsequently made the record uber popular, and Frankie Goes to Hollywood became massive. They were the biggest band in the world for, I don't know, maybe a year, something like that. They had 2 or 3 number ones, and they brought out a game. I mean, the game is a bizarre game. You play the part of a nobody, quite literally. You're playing a part of nobody in a place. Is it called Dullsville or something? And the idea is you've got to basically run between houses and collect things, look through drawers, pick up things, put them down, and you basically build. If you look at the bottom right there, you'll see you've got different, is it love, war, hate, I can't remember, religion or something. You've got to kind of build these up, and then eventually you get to enter what's called the Pleasure Dome. It's a thoroughly bizarre game. Lacosa, my mate Lacosa, thoroughly recommends it. He says it's an amazing game. I would probably, if you're going to play it, I would play the C64 one, because it has got a really nice musical track, whereas the Spectrum one is completely silent. But you also get some little mini games as well. It was very much a game of its time. 1985, you had Ronald Reagan, you had Mikhail Gorbachev, who was the Russian leader. The Cold War was in its, was massive. There was a threat of nuclear war. It was all, like I says, it was very much a game of its time. But it's, I mean, Zap gave it a crash smash, or was it a gold medal possibly? It was really, really highly rated, and it's definitely worth checking out. Right, next up is Geoff Capes, Strongman. Now, you're probably thinking, who the bloody hell's Geoff Capes? Now, if you're familiar with the world's strongest man, you may know, is it Thor Bjornsson, who plays the part in Game of Thrones, and you might have also heard of Eddie Hall, who's the English guy who won the world's strongest man. Now, back in the 80s, they weren't quite so athletic as they are now, and there was a guy who went by the name of Geoff Capes. He was an English guy, and he used to keep budgerigars, if I remember rightly. And I think he won the world's strongest man. So this is basically, it's a sort of track and field type game, but based around strongman events. I did have it on the C64, and I thought it was absolute shite. So yeah, I'm actually struggling to get this going. Let's give it a wee go anyway. Right, so I presume you're trying to sort of upgrade your body. This is like a training session. I'm waggling the joystick here, but I'm not really quite sure what it's doing here. Right, here we go. We've got the truck pull. How do we start this? Right, I've got no idea. It doesn't appear to be as simple as I thought it was going to be, so no idea if that's shite or not. But anyway, you can check it out yourself if you're that way inclined. So that was Geoff Capes, Strongman, and next up is Jerry the Jerem, goes Body Poppin'. Body Poppin' was a sort of form of breakdance which was really popular in the 80s. Now I think this was a budget game released by M&D Software. I thought it was Firebird Software, maybe not. I'm really not quite sure what I'm supposed to be doing here. Lungaroo, Jerry the Jerem. It's a temperature gauge. I've got no idea what I'm doing here. Right, I appear to be... I was going to say I appear to be on a boat. And it looks like I was towing some toilet roll, which is quite appropriate, given the toilet roll is like as rare as hen's teeth at the moment. Right, it just seem to be dying instantly. It looks like you're in some sort of machine thing. Yeah, you can see there I'm towing toilet roll, which I presume I've got to get to the other side, but I don't know how you're meant to do that because these wee bad guys are just coming along and as soon as you touch them you're dying. Yeah, this is almost impossible. You got to avoid everything. I mean, look at it. Ah, am I going to make it? Right, I don't know. Just going on to the other side. I've got no idea what I'm trying to do there. Anyway, that was Jerry the Germ. No idea about that game at all. Right, next one is Glass. I always remember reading, I think it was in Crash, it was a really young kid that actually programmed this. And I think visually it's actually quite impressive. I mean, look at the different colours down the bottom there. That is quite nice. Yeah, so it's a sort of shoot 'em up with some, well, impressive kind of shadow effects. Or not shadow, reflection of... I can't even say it properly. Reflection effects. Don't think this was ever ported to the C64. I presume you're just trying to shoot these things, but I can't actually see. Is there any score? Ah, the score's at the top there appear of 80 points. No idea how I managed that. Yeah, I mean, from a technical viewpoint, this is actually quite an impressive looking game. Quite reminiscent of 3D Death Chase. I presume we'll get to the end of this level at some point. Or maybe not, who knows. Anyway, that's Glass. Right, next one. This was released by Elite Software and it's Grand National. Don't think this came out on any other system. Now, I can't remember if you actually get to play. So you can bet. It's obviously based on horse racing. You can place bets. Let's go for doorstep. Whatever, I don't know. 50 quid. Right, how do we get out of this? Alright, horse to ride, so you can actually take part in the race itself. There was very few horse racing games back in the day. I mean, there were some of the early kind of betting ones in the very early days, but there is a horse racing game on the Neo Geo. I can't remember what it's called. It's actually quite good. Or is it on the, maybe it's not in the Neo Geo, but there is an arcade game where you basically riding a horse. Right, I've got no idea how to actually move. I don't even know who I'm controlling. I think I am the horse at the far left, but I don't know how to get my speed up. I have no idea. So it's pretty much, it's a racing game except with horses. Yeah, I don't know how to... Oh, hang on. My speed moved a wee bit. I'm getting a bit of speed now. Oh shit, we're going to have to jump this, I'm assuming. It's quite a nice game actually. I mean, you've got this sort of viewpoint at the bottom. I don't know how to jump. I'm just going to run right into the fence and stop. Yeah, interesting. That was Grand National. Right, next up, this is Gunfight. aye, something rings a bell that this was by Ultimate. I can't remember, I think it was. This was based on the Bank Panic in the arcades. Now, if I remember rightly, this is actually quite a good... Oh, no, I'm talking absolute bollocks. I'm thinking something completely different. No, this is by Ultimate Play the Game, yeah, and it's a little... the little saber wolf man, can't remember what he's called again. Saber Man, I think it is, actually. Yeah, using the 3D technology. Now, I think at this point, people were starting to get a bit bored of games like this. Though they were technically impressive, you know, the games were fairly shallow, and I don't think, I mean, they never really reached the heights of that they did with like Alien A and Night Lore. But again, it was a nice game. The fact that you could kind of go inside buildings and then the walls would disappear, that was quite a clever bit of programming. It seems if you walk into anything, you die. So yeah, you're obviously looking for Buffalo Bill there. Kill him and you get a reward. And you can, if you pick up the little horse, you then get to run about. It's quite bizarre. I mean, you're not even riding on the horse. It's like a toy horse. It's just a bizarre thing. So anyway, that was Gunfight. Next up, this is Gyro. Now this game, my most... clear memory about this game, it was one of these games that John Menzies and all the Hytale retailers, they used to have this game running as a demo, because I suppose technically it is quite an impressive looking game. I don't know, no idea what the idea behind the game was, or the point of the game was. You got these big giant balls that sort of meander about a maze. It was never released on the C64, probably because the processor was too slow to actually be able to play the game. But yeah, it was. I mean, looking at it now, it does look quite basic. It's just filled in circles. But you know, back then it did look quite far ahead of its time. So yeah, that's a Gyron. Next up, it's basically a rip-off of Marble Madness, and this is Gyroscope. And if I remember rightly, this was released by Melbourne House. Now they did a bit of a sneaky one. They actually they released this about a month before Marble Madness came out. Effectively, I wouldn't say killing their sale base, but yeah, it wasn't a bad version. I mean, graphically, it was quite impressive. Based on exactly the same idea in Marble Madness, you've got to get down to the bottom of the screen as quick as, or get to the bottom of the level as quick as you possibly can. But for its time, it was quite impressive looking. You come into contact with walls, if you fall off the edge, then you lose a life. And that was Gyroscope. Next up, by Activision Software, is Hacker. And obviously the name, the idea of the game is in the name of the title. Hacker, yep, you play a computer hacker trying to hack a system of some sort. Not really any idea what it was. I did have this, I think I actually bought this game. It sounded interesting, but I just kind of gave up pretty quick because I really couldn't figure out what I was supposed to do. But I think it was mildly popular. In fact, it must have been popular enough because there was a sequel imaginatively titled Hacker 2, no less. So it's trying to simulate what would happen here if you were getting into a computer system. I'm presuming it's some sort of military system, I think. I'm sure would-be hackers back in the day would probably have preferred actually pirating software than playing games about hacking. Right, now I think this section you've got to try and identify the different parts of the robot. I think it tells you, or it asks you to identify it. It's been a long time since I've played this. Use stick to align laser test points specified by computer. Push button to run test. Well, about number 1, I think. Right, so what am I looking for? The infrared video image sensor. A synchronous data compactor. No. Hydraulic motivator. With that. Ah, away you go. That must be it. Oh, I can't even pronounce it. Flamsong joint. Yeah, that's Hacker. Right, next is Herbert's Dummy Run. This was released by Microgen. I was going to say Automata, that was one of their games. Microgen, yeah. They had, what did you have? You had Automata, you had Pyjamarama, you had Everyone's a Wally. I was never a really fan of this game. I think I had it. I don't know, there's just... I mean, I was an adult when I was playing computer games, but there's just something about playing the part of a baby. You know, I don't know, with that, it just doesn't really sit right with me. I know you play parts of like Donkey Kong and Mario and Sonic the Hedgehog, but I don't know, just playing a baby in a game really didn't appeal to me at all. I mean, it was... Microgen, obviously, they realised they'd stumbled upon a game type which people enjoyed, because this was really no different from Pyjamarama. Almost identical, you know, even... I'm sure they used exactly the same code and they just tweaked the graphics. Next up is Highway Encounter. When I think of this game, I always think of the Spectrum. It was very much it was a game that my mate used to play in the Spectrum. I think it did come out for other 8-bit machines, but I don't think I ever... In fact, I know for a fact I never actually owned it on anything. And the idea of the game, I believe, was to sort of try and navigate your... I don't know what you would call them, children? Little child robots or something, by basically clearing the path by shooting stuff and pushing things out the way for your little, your 4 little robots to try and get home, I'm presuming. Now it does say there 5, or is that me plus 4 of the little kids? I think it might be actually. So when I move that, I think they'll start to move again. There we go. An interesting concept actually. And obviously the sort of viewpoint lended itself pretty well to the Spectrum strengths. You know, the Spectrum was always good at these kind of isometric 3D type games. But I know it was mega popular. That was Highway Encounter. Right, next is Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. This was a text adventure based on the book. I was never ever into anything like this at all. I had no interest in this game whatsoever. But it's amazing, you know, just how popular text adventures actually were back in the day. The big thing about some of these games is you had to kind of get to know the parser, the sort of the language which you understood, because some of them were quite you know, they were quite detailed. You could say some big sentences to them and they would understand it. Other ones would be like, you know, take, get, look. And if you typed in the wrong thing, it would just say, I do not understand. And that's the thing that used to kind of annoy me with these games. You're trying your best to try and pick up something, and the game simply could not understand what you were saying to it. So you had to have a lot of patience. But like I said, they were mega popular. There was a lot of people who probably really enjoyed them. I mean, that was the first type of computer game that kind of came out, along with your drafts and chess and solitaire and things like that. Right, moving on to something a bit more exciting. This is Hunchback 2 by Ocean Software, the sequel to their seminal Hunchback. Now, the making of this game did appear in Commercial Breaks, which if you've never seen, you really need to watch. It was a BBC documentary which basically charted. It was meant to be really looking at Ocean Software and also Imagine Software, and it was just unfortunate that it actually came out as as Imagine Software went bankrupt. The receivers got called in. If you've never seen it, you really need to watch it. It's easily available on YouTube. It's called Commercial Breaks. And this game, Hunchback 2, was one of the games that I remember kind of featured in the programme. Kind of reminds me a wee bit like a sort of Donkey Kong Jr. type game. Bells and ropes and what have you. And that is Hunchback 2. Right, next up is a favourite of mine. This is Hypersports. This was programmed by Joffa Smith, or Jonathan Smith, if you want to give him his full name. You always know that any game that John or Joffa made is going to be an absolute cracking title. And this is absolutely no different. Yeah, I mean, Joffa was one of these guys. He really knew, the strengths of the Spectrum. He knew the limitations of it, and he would work around it. And he would really, he would know how to produce a good game. I don't think there was a single bad game that he actually put out. And this is an absolute cracking version of an arcade game. I don't think you could really have got any better. One thing I would love to have seen, and I'm sure a few folk would probably think the same, I'd love to have seen him program other computers. I mean, I think he only ever worked in the Spectrum, but when you can see what he was able to do with the Spectrum, the limited colour palette, can you imagine what he could have done with the C64, Atari, Amstrad, or dare I say the Commodore Amiga? But the graphics are lovely. Animation as well, and he was one of these guys. He was able to. He wasn't just a good programmer. He was able to do graphics and sound as well. He was a complete all-rounder, and I think if you spoke to any Spectrum programmer, they would all say that Jonathan Smith was one of the best. Yep, that's Hypersports. Right, next one is from the writer of Ant Attack and Zombie Zombie. It's Sandy White, and this is Eye of the Mask. I think this only ever came out in the Spectrum. I mean, it uses sort of polygon graphics. I've never actually played the game until now, but yeah, it's quite a strange game. Quite sort of, I suppose it was quite ahead of its time. I don't know if it was all that popular. You're sort of like trying to get out a mask, you're trying to get out of a maze type thing. But the graphics are quite impressive. You look at how fluid these polygon walls are getting updated. That's quite impressive. Got really no idea what the actual point in the game is. But it's impressive nevertheless anyway, even from a technical point of view. Right, oh dearie me. Now if you watch any of the videos that I do with Kozer, where we generally look at really poor games, you may be familiar with this one. This is Jack Charlton's Fishing. Dearie me, what can I say about this one? It's the most utterly pointless video game you could ever play. Yeah, I mean Jack Charlton was a famous English footballer. I think he may have played in the 1966 World Cup team possibly, I'm not quite sure. And yeah, his pastime was fishing, and so they decided to do a fishing game on him. Though there again, I wouldn't be able to, other than Jack Charlton, I wouldn't actually be able to name any other famous fisherman. It's not a sport that gets any sort of any like coverage on TV at all. I suppose it's not really a spectator sport. So yeah, there you go. The idea of this game is to basically fish, and this is about the most exciting part that you get. Yeah, awful. Right, from one minority sport to another, this is a squash game, Jonah Barrington squash. Now, Jonah Barrington was, I think, the world champion back in the 80s. Now, I do like squash. I've not played it for years, but I used to play it a long time ago, and I've got to say, you know, it's actually a really good version of squash. I mean, it plays really well. You can see there, you know, they've replicated it really well. I did have this on the C64, and it had speech, which was really quite impressive. But I don't think this game done particularly well because, like I says, squash is never going to be as popular as football or darts or whatever. So, you know, I wouldn't have imagined this would have sold to anyone other than somebody who actually plays squash. But it's a good game. If you're into squash or you like squash and you want to try a squash video game, then you could do worse than checking this one out. So that is Jonah Barrington squash. Next is Kong Strikes Back. This was by Ocean Software. Now again, this is Joffa Smith, or Jonathan Smith. This was based on, what's it called again? It's based on an arcade game, Mr. Do's Wild Ride, I think it's called. The idea of the game is you have to basically try and navigate your way to the top of the track and avoid the roller coasters. And you see there the roller coasters go around the track, so you've got to kind of work your way around the track. You can go up ladders to avoid them, but you've also got to be careful you don't hit your head on one that's passing over, you know, overhead. But it's actually a really nice little game, and this particular version is mega playable. Whoops. I like the way the wee roller coasters bump along the track. Okay, so that was close. Why did that disappear? Ah, right, you've got bombs. Yeah, I forgot about them. But yeah, it's an absolute cracking little game. I'll just complete this level and then we'll move on. Hey! Yeah, great game. Definitely worth one checking out, or worthwhile checking that one out. Right, this is Mars Sports. Now, I think this was the third game in this series. There was Tir na Nog, then there was Dundarch, I think it was. Now, were these based on books or something? I don't really know. Again, I think they only came out for the Spectrum. Maybe they didn't, I don't know, but I only remember these as being Spectrum games. Now, the most impressive thing about these games was the animation of the main character, the way he kind of walks from side to side. It is a sort of a an adventure type game. I don't think there's any real action going on. But like I said, yeah, I think they were, you know, they reviewed pretty highly in the magazines. And like I said, I think they're based on a game, on a book, a series of books. I could be talking complete bollocks, of course. But yeah, the standout thing for me was the animation of the guy. But if that's your thing, then go and check it out. Right, you're all fully aware of this one. This is Match Day. This was probably, it was the first really, really good Spectrum football game. I think every other football game that went before was complete pants. I mean, the C64 had international soccer. The Spectrum had World Cup Carnival. Did that come out before this or after? I think that came out after this, actually. But yeah, every Spectrum football game before this was crap. Then John Rittman came along with this. Now, I wasn't a fan of it. I always thought international soccer was way better. I know Spectrum owners would probably disagree. But you know, for its time, it was very impressive then. I think, well, they brought out Match Day 2, which kind of improved it no end. They had, you could vary how hard you kick the ball, and they had a sort of a really accurate angle thing, so you know, the way the ball would bounce and deflect was sort of quite accurate. All the physics had kind of been worked out properly. But yeah, this was a massive game. It was mega popular. Like I said, I wasn't a fan of it. To be fair, I've never actually really played it, but it was huge for its time. This was what we had to play before your FIFAs, though I would much rather play this than any modern FIFA. There's just no spirit in the modern games now. It's all about licensing and football, you know, football names and that kind of stuff. I should maybe actually do a proper look at the best football games on the 8-bit. That's maybe an idea for a video for me, I think. But yeah, that's Match Day. Right, excuse me, next one is, believe it or not, another Joffa Smith game. This is Mikey. Now, I was actually going to do an Arcade Perfect My Arse in this a couple of days ago, and you know what, I just couldn't really figure out how to play the game. You have to, I think you have to kind of like push the pupils off their seat, and then you sit down and there's a teacher who follows you, but when you sit down he kind of disappears, and then when you get up again you've got to try and pick up hearts or something. I did play it for about 20 minutes, and I did get to the second level, but I just thought it's actually a pretty crap game. I wasn't a fan of it at all. But yeah, I think this is quite an authentic conversion of what I would term quite a poor arcade game. But that's Mikey. Right, a classic, Monty on the Run. Now, it's probably a classic more on the C64 for obvious reasons, with the awesome Rob Hubbard Sid tune. Sadly, you don't get that in the Spectrum, but you know what? It's actually a really good platform game. I mean, I did play this primarily on the C64 because of the music, but it is actually a good game. I could never get particularly far in it, but yeah, I mean, these kind of games there were so many of them back in the mid-80s, and this is probably one of the best. The detail in the graphics, the sort of level structure. Just really good fun. Lots of nice little nods to bits of nostalgia. You'll see a C5 later on. But it's mega playable. Arse. Yeah, it's all about exploration and collecting these wee coins. I don't actually know what the idea of the game was. Like I said, I never actually got particularly far in it. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. Boom! That's Monty on the Run. Right, next one up, Mooncrester. Now this is probably one of the most impressive, authentic arcade conversions on the Spectrum. It's of a game which I've got a love-hate relationship with it. It's a classic game. I like the idea behind it, but it's just so difficult. The thing about the arcade game for me is the collision detection is a bit hit or miss. The movement is extremely random, which makes sort of actually trying to get even half good at it very, very difficult. And they've replicated that pretty well in this version as well. I mean, it is a cracking conversion of the game, but like I said, it's just, I think the level of difficulty is ramped up to the max. It's a really, really difficult game, but this was a really, really good conversion. If anything, I'd probably say this is slightly easier than arcade. The movement seems to be a wee bit more kind of smooth and predictable, whereas the arcade one, it's sort of, even the hit sort of detection's a bit, not too sure. But great game, that's Mooncrester. Right, before we had leaderboard, this was what we used to play for golf. Nick Faldo, he was the Tiger Woods of the 80s. He was an English golf, well, I presume he's still alive. He's an English golfer. Yeah, pretty much he dominated the sport for quite a few years, I think. And this was a game based on him playing the Open. I mean, golf games before leaderboard were pretty damn primitive affairs. You know, if you were lucky, you had a sort of a representation of the actual course. But the actual action part of the game was amounted to, you know, pick your club, and if you're lucky, there would be a little power bar that you had to press the button to hit the ball. Leaderboard really took it to the next level. But yeah, I think this was sort of regarded as quite a good game for its time. But like I say, leaderboard came along and that sort of changed the way golf games were in the future. Yeah, so that's Nick Faldo Plays the Open. Right, next one should be a fairly familiar game. This is Nightshade by Ultimate Play the Game. This was continuing the adventures of Saber Man, I think he was called. Again, it used similar engine to, was it Nightshade? I think this was ported for the Amstrad and possibly BBC. Sadly, the C64 never got any of these games until fairly recently, when we've obviously had Night Lore and Alien 8, I think it was. But I think by this point, I think Spectrum owners were starting to get a wee bit bored of these games, because it was just the same game but with different graphics. I mean, you know, Ultimate really raised the bar when they brought along, you know, Night Lore and Alien 8, but they sort of rested on their laurels too long, and I think the creativity part sort of started to kind of fade. And like I say, people just, you know, they weren't really trying to do anything different. It was just the same engine, you know, same engine, slightly different graphics, and you know, so this was, I think, one of the probably last Ultimate games to actually come out. Right, Nodes of Yesod. This was a lovely, lovely, lovely platform game. Now was this the one that came out? There was Ark of Yesod and Nodes of Yesod. I can't remember what one came out first, but both were very similar. Used the same little sprite, the little spaceman, and you also get a mole later on in the game. And I think you can use the mole to. I think you can use the mole to sort of like pick up things. I can't remember. I think about to find them first. But yeah, again, it was like I says, it was, these games were just 10 a penny in the Spectrum, and this, you had to really be something special to stand out. Unfortunately, this game was. It was a lovely game. I said the animation was great. The sprites, or the graphics, I should say, were really, really nice. So this was definitely one of the better ones. I did have this on the C64, and it actually played pretty well. It was a really good game because games like this weren't quite so common on the Commodore, whereas, like I said, they were 10 a penny in the Spectrum. This one always reminded me a wee bit like Underworld. Similar kind of game. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. That's Nodes of Yesod. Right, back to budget games. One Man and His Droid. Yeah, this was a hugely popular game. I mean, budget games in the early days were pretty damned poor affairs. They really were. You know, the early Mastertronic stuff was just god awful. And then this game came along. Now, this was one of probably the first budget games that was actually worth the money. It did review pretty well, I think, but personally I was not really a fan of it. I didn't really understand what I was supposed to do, and I didn't really you know what the idea of the game was. But I did buy it because I think Zap gave it quite a good review, but I wasn't a fan of it. But you know, yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. You have no idea, is this like a kind of Frogger level or something? I've got absolutely no idea at all. It's quite impressive the amount of graphics that are on screen, I suppose. But you know what, for $1.99, was that a little tip to Mastertronic, that little bit at the top? I think that was the Mastertronic logo actually. The C64 one was quite standout because I had a... Right, next up is Popeye. This was by DK Tronics. Now, I can't remember who programmed this. I'm sure it was somebody quite famous, but I can't remember offhand. This, I think it was programmed by the same person that did Trapdoor, which was kind of a sort of a stop motion animation thing back in the 80s. And I mean, it's yeah, what is really impressive about this game is the size of the graphics. I mean, they're absolutely huge. I mean, you know, the characters are taking up virtually half the screen, which is pretty good. And I mean, if you actually look at the colour as well, it is really well done. Yeah, it's quite slow, but you know what, it's pushing a lot of graphics about there, so it is very impressive. Never actually played it. I always thought it looked quite, I don't know, quite childish, but I think it did get quite good reviews when it was out at the time. Is it Malcolm Evans? Is it? I can't remember. I really can't remember. There's probably people screaming at the screen at the moment telling me who actually wrote it. But yeah, it's, if you liked Trapdoor, then I'm assuming you're probably going to like this. Right, this one, Pud Pud. Now, a lot of people have probably never actually heard of this game. This was actually the first game that Joffa Smith, who I've mentioned a few times, Jonathan Smith, this was the first game that he wrote for Ocean. If you've watched Commercial Breaks, which I mentioned, have I mentioned it before? I can't remember exactly. It's a really good documentary which is easily available on YouTube, and it basically charts the downfall of Imagine Software and also shows you Ocean Software. And yep, a young Matthew Smith, a young Jonathan Smith comes into Ocean with this game, and they signed him on the spot. They gave him a big chunky money, and the rest is history. He went on to program some wonderful games, Greenberry, Hyper Sports, Cobra, etc. So yeah, this was Jonathan Smith's very first game that he got published. Never played it before. I think you control that little yellow character. It kind of looks a wee bit like a Joust type game, I'm not quite sure. But, you know, I would definitely say check it out, because like I say, anything, keeps going to say Matthew Smith, anything that Joffa Smith has done generally means it's a good game. So that is Pud Pud. Right, this one needs no introduction. Raid Over Moscow, the sequel to Beachhead. Though, I suppose technically the official sequel to Beachhead was Beachhead 2, but yeah, there was Beachhead, then Raid Over Moscow came out, and then that was followed by Beachhead 2. This is an amazing game. I mean, it's like Beachhead, it's all little miniature games. You know, you would probably say that not one of the levels is a massively impressive game by itself, but the fact that there's about, it's a collection, putting them all together, you've got a really good game, and it gives you a real kind of sense of flavour of, you know, the Cold War back in the 80s. You know, when this game came out, there was a very, very real risk of a nuclear war, and that's what made this game quite scary. I think there was a bit of controversy when this game was released, obviously Raid Over Moscow, you know. I think it was released in America, I'm not quite sure, I don't know if they maybe released it under a different name, but yeah, tensions were very high. But yeah, it's a multi kind of level game. So this one's kind of like, just go and die. I was going to say kind of like Zaxxon. This one here, you've got to try and shoot the, I think that's nuclear reactors. You've basically got to get lined up with the little kind of hole. I think your ship actually flashes when you're lined up correctly. So you've got to take out, I think you've got to take out the ones at the side first, possibly. Can't remember. This level this is the Kremlin. You're actually you're trying to shoot baddies that are trying to protect the Kremlin. I mean, it's a bizarre game, but you know what? It's really good fun, and like I says, it gives you a real sense of just what it was like back in the 80s. You know, the Cold War and all that kind of stuff. But if you like Beachhead, you'll love Raid Over Moscow. Rambo, yep. You've maybe seen the film. If you've not seen the film, then go and see it. Go and see it. Then I strongly advise you go and watch it. It was actually a film I didn't watch for the first time until about maybe 10 years ago. It's really, you know, if you're into Sylvester Stallone, then go and see it. It is, or go and watch it, I should say. It is worthwhile watching it. So this was basically the game of the film. Kill lots of bad people, rescue hostages, I think it was. Is the game going to start? I'm going to start. I don't know what's going on. There we go, eventually. Yeah, you basically got to rescue some hostages, I think, and kill everything in its sight. Now, the C64 one it will always be known for having an absolute stonking Rob Hubbard music track. I mean, it is really impressive. I wasn't that impressed with the game itself. I mean, it came out at the same time as Commando, and I always thought that Commando was easily the better game. Both had, I'm saying Rob Hubbard, it was Martin Galway that did the theme tune to that. Dearie me, I think I've got a bit of heat stroke. The sun is shining outside, it's shining through the window, so I think I'm overheating. But yeah, this one actually looks and probably plays better than the C64 one. I don't think there's an awful lot to it. I think there's only maybe a couple of levels, if that. But again, it was a game very much of its time, you know, so go and check it out. That is Rambo. Right, the least said about this one the better. Give My Regards to Broad Street was a game based on a song, I think. No, it wasn't a song, it was based on a film that starred Paul McCartney. Never seen the film, no idea what it's about. But if the game is anything to go by, I wouldn't recommend wasting any time watching the film. I mean, from what I can gather, you're just trying to, I don't know where you're trying to go. It's based in London, you're driving about. I've really no idea what the purpose of the game is or what you're actually trying to achieve. But yeah, it's, what's that there, an underground station. I'm assuming you play the part of one of the characters. I do remember this getting reviewed in Zap, and I think it got a pretty awful review. I don't think I ever got around to even loading the game up. I'm sure I had a copy, I'm sure I had it on a C90 tape, and I don't think I ever actually loaded the game. But yeah, I've got to include the bad ones as well. I've got to say, I mean, there is a lot of games came out in 1985, and all I've really done here is pick the ones that I remember, because there's a lot of games that I don't remember. Now, this one I do remember, Robin Hood the Wood. I remember this one because it is one of the few 8-bit games that I actually completed. Having played it again, I can't imagine why I actually completed it, because yeah, it's just running back and forwards, running through identical looking screens, picking up do you pick up? I think you pick up bits and pieces. I think you pick up weapons eventually. I think you can kill baddies. But it's quite a dull game, but like I said, for some strange reason, I did complete it in the C64. I think possibly because there weren't that many games like this in the C64. These were really abundant on the Spectrum, and maybe it was a bit of a something a bit different. But I do remember buying it. I think Zap gave it a good review, and that tended to be what drove you to play certain games. If the magazine Zap or Crash gave a game a good review, then generally you'd go by that, because obviously there was no such thing as the internet, so we basically had to go by either playing a game that we'd seen ourselves or recommended by a mate, or more lately if it was recommended, and I think it did get quite a good review. But playing it now is quite dull, I have to say. So that is Robin o' the Wood. Now this one, Rock and Wrestle. This came out, it was released by Melbourne House, and being a huge fan of Way of the Exploding Fist, the idea of getting to play a wrestle game was very appealing. Now you need to remember, this was way before your WWF games. I mean, you go into any branch of CEX, and guaranteed there'll be a million FIFAs and a million wrestle games. I think the reason they go for cheapest chips, A, they're pish, but secondly, they bring out a new version every single year, so they're absolutely abundant as hell. But back in 1985, there was no such thing as WWF, or maybe it did exist on Sky Television, but there weren't really any wrestle games, and this was Melbourne House's attempt. It's a bit messy, but it's a bit of fun. If wrestling's your thing, then you can check it out. Right, Rocky Horror Picture Show, blimey. This is a real nostalgia trip for anybody, that was around in '85. All these games, they're a sort of mark in the sand of what was out back then. So this was based on another film license based on the Rocky Horror Picture Show, which I think was a musical. And then it became a film, or did it become a film, then it became a musical? I don't know exactly. I know it was a musical film. It had Meatloaf. Plus, was it Tim Rice? Was he in it, I think? I think he was. So yeah, you play the part of, is it Brad and Janice, I think it is. You stumble across this weird mansion, and it's occupied by a number of odd sort of residents, and I don't know what the idea of the game is. You've got to basically collect things and build up, is it a jigsaw or something? I don't quite know. I'm assuming you're wanting to try and escape from it. But it's actually nice. I like the detailed graphics on the Spectrum. There was a really good version of this on the Commodore 128. There's not many games that there's the C128 isn't a machine you'd really recommend for any sort of upgraded games, but this, I'm sure there was a better version of this out for the Commodore 128. It's got more colour, I think. Don't know if it's got better sound, but yeah, it's nice, and like I says, it's a big nostalgia trip. But if I was going to play one, either play the Commodore 128 or play the Spectrum one, because the graphics are way better than the C64 one. Yeah, Roland Rat Race. Who the hell is Roland, you're saying to yourself? Well, back in the day, back in the early 80s, there was a thing called breakfast television. Now, before breakfast television came along, I would probably say back even as recent as 1980, the television did not start until about 4 o'clock. In the morning, it was programmes for schools and universities. Then a thing called breakfast television came along, which revolutionised watching TV for us in the UK. ITV had their own one, was it Good Morning Britain, and then BBC had their own one as well, I can't remember. And oddly, there was a puppet called Roland. It was just a puppet rat, and he was like the mascot of one of them. And yeah, he was that popular that they brought out a game, which I think is pretty pish. Shadowfire. It's a game that it looks nice, it sounds nice, certainly in the C64, but it's just boring. It's just like static graphics. There's really no action at all. I mean, you control a sort of crosshair, as you can see there, and it's all just like pointing and clicking. And I could never figure it out. I mean, I'm sure Zap Magazine gave the C64 one a really good review. It has got really nice sound. I think it was by Denton Designs, who went on to make Enigma Force, I think it was. But yeah, it's like I said, it's an interesting game. It's not one that I'm particularly interested in playing. It's I couldn't really figure it out. I know you'll find that really hard to believe, but yeah, that was where it was. It's all icon driven. There's really no excitement in the game at all. I'm sure my mate Lakoza would probably love this because he loved all these kind of strategy type games. But yeah, it did review well. You know, it might be something that you would want to play, so you can go and check it out. So that is Shadowfire. This one is a veritable classic. School Days. This was one of these games that every shop used to have the Spectrum positioned in the shop window, and it was always this game or what's it called? Not Cytron. What's the name? The game that's got the big balls that roll about. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, School Days was one of these games that they always had in the shop window. Don't know why. It's possibly because it's actually got quite an interesting sort of demo mode, which you can see here. The game just kind of plays itself. So the idea is you play the part of, is it Eric, I think it is, a school kid, and you've basically got to go to lessons, and I think the idea of the game is you've got a bad report card which is locked in the headmaster's safe, and the idea of the game is you want to try and break into the safe, take out the report and destroy it before your parents get to see it. So the idea of the game is to wander about, going into lessons. I mean, it's quite clever because, you know, the bell will go and the teachers will tell you to go to a certain class, and then you'll see all the pupils kind of going towards that class. So it's quite a clever game. It was out in the C64 as well. But yeah, definitely worth playing. It's a classic. That was School Days. This one, Software Star. This was sort of the kind of unofficial sequel to Football Manager, programmed by the Beard, Mr. Kevin Toms, who incidentally I have actually interviewed. If you want to hear me interview Kevin Toms, just go up to the search bar, type in Mainmeister Kevin Toms, and you'll see a link to the video that I did. He's actually a really, really nice guy. I spoke to him a couple of years ago. So Software Star, it was basically you run your own software business, and the idea being you have to produce games, and then you've got to market them, and it's up to you how much money you spend, how much you take out in adverts, how many programmers you throw at it, you know, all that sort of thing. And then you get to watch the game rise up the charts. It's kind of like Football Manager. There's not a lot. I mean, probably Football Manager is a bit more exciting because you get to see the football highlights, whereas in this, the biggest thrill you get is you see the software chart and you see your game sort of climbing the charts if you're lucky. I did play it. I bought it in the C64 and I quite enjoyed it, but that was because I was a massive Football Manager fan, you know. So if you really fancy yourself, if you think you can run your own software company, before you invest lots of money, why don't you check out Software Star and give it a go, and you'll see if you're pish or not. But yeah, there it is. You can choose the number of adverts, number of pages in an advert you take out. So there you go. There's that's the chart there. You can see my game rising up the charts up to number 18. That didn't do too well. But yeah, definitely worth checking out. That's Software Star. Right, this one, Southern Belle. This, my goodness, we're really getting into nerd territory now. It's a train simulator now. It's not like a toy train simulator, it's actually a train simulator. You've got to, is it steer? Do you drive a train driver? Yeah, I think you do. Yeah, you've got to basically pilot. Do you pilot a train? I don't know. You've basically got to drive a train from A to B. And it's an old-fashioned steam train. Now, I don't think it's in real time, but yeah, you can see there. I mean, the graphics are obviously basic, you know, which you would expect on an 8-bit machine. But yeah, I think there was there not a sequel to this? There's something niggles me that there was actually a sequel to this, or was this a sequel to something else? Something Evening Star? I can't remember. I'm sure there was another version of this. Like I said, I don't know whether this was the sequel or whether there was one, like whether this was original and then a second game came out. Although I could be talking complete bollocks again. But I don't think this was on the C64. If it had been, I didn't see it, and I don't think I was interested in it. This is a demo. Fortunately, it has got a demo mode, so you can actually get a kind of rough idea what it's about. But yeah, I think you've got to shovel the coal and that kind of stuff. But an interesting game. Right, this one is David Jones. He did he not go on to do Lemmings and then go on to Grand Theft Auto? Or am I thinking of somebody completely different? I think I might be right, actually. Or I might be talking complete balls. I can't remember. Anyway, if you do know the answer to that, put your comment down below. If indeed anybody's actually still watching this. We're now 2 hours and 14 minutes in. Yeah, Spellbound. It was a budget game. It was a kind of graphic adventure. I mean, nice graphics. You know, it looks like it should be controlled by a joystick. Well, it does. You use a joystick to control it. But you're able to interact with characters. You're able to pick up objects. That sort of thing. And again, it was a budget. I think it was £1.99. So, you know, it was, and I think it was pretty popular. Again, I was never an arcade adventure type fan, so I never really got into it. I didn't really play it much myself. I probably bought it because I was one of these mugs that would buy something if it was good, even though I knew I was never going to play it. I liked the idea of having a game so that if I decided I wanted to play it, I could. But yeah, there was, you know, I think there was quite a few. There was about 3 or 4, or maybe 1 or 2, can't remember. There was certainly at least one more that was like this. I can't remember what it was called. But you know, for a budget game, there was quite a lot to it, and I think it was definitely worth £1.99. So if arcade adventures is your thing, then why not check it out? Right, a classic that I'm very, very familiar with. This is Spy Hunter, a port of the arcade game. I did buy this on the C64. It was released by, I think it was by US Gold. Really, really good version. Never played the Spectrum version, but looking at the graphics, it does look really, really nice. The idea being is, I don't actually know what the idea of the game is. Basically, don't die. There's various adversaries. There's cars that try and ram you off the road. There's cars that have got spikes in the wheels. So you've got to try and avoid them, try and kill them if you can. You also get to a bit where the road will run out, and you've got to, you can transfer into or transport I should say, into a boat. You've got to try and not kill any goodies. So I mean, I just try and not kill any motorbikes like I've successfully managed to do there. And if every now and again you do get a truck which will kind of come up from behind and it'll deposit, if you kind of drive up and don't shoot it like I've just done, it'll drop extra weapons. I think you've got bombs, you've also got oil, I think it is. But it's a good fun game, so yeah, you'll get, it might come up here, bridge out, no it doesn't. But later on you do get a bridge, and the bridge actually stops, and so what you need to do is you need to keep to the left. But it's a great game, really nice arcade one. That was Spy Hunter, and sticking with spies, it's Spy v Spy. Based on, was it Mad? The Mad comic? There was a cartoon character, or characters called Spy v Spy. Basically, the white spy versus the black spy. The idea of this game is, I mean, what was really unique about it, you have 2 players and each has got their own screen. And you can see, if you run onto the opponent's screen, they can see you and vice versa. So you can see there, you've each got your own screen. The idea is you've got to try and find a number of things and then put them in a suitcase, and then once you've got everything, you want to leave the building. But what's really clever is you've got a little sort of a spy pack with various booby traps, wires, you can electrocute them. What you've got to do is plant little traps for the opponent to kind of walk into, so hopefully we'll see something actually happen. Now this is the demo mode playing. I don't know if you're going to get to see when the trap's going off. But yeah, there was 2 sequels to this. There was one in ice, I think it was, and there was also one in a desert. But I don't think the other two were really as good as the first one. The first one was really good. It was quite simple, but it was really, really good fun to play. That was Spy v Spy. Right, next up is Starion. This, again, it was only out in the Spectrum. I don't think it was out in the C64 because the C64 famously could not do vector graphics apparently, although some would argue that. This game is kinda a bit like, I was going to say Star Wars versus Elite. You've got to, there's stuff to shoot, but you're also trying to pick up, it's like a kind of puzzle game. You'll see letters floating about which you've got to collect, and then I think you eventually have to try and make a word. I think that was kind of the basis behind the game. Like I said, I never had it because it wasn't out in the C64, not that I'm aware of, but yeah, graphics are really good. I mean, the Spectrum did have quite a nippy little processor, so it was well capable of doing games like this. So I think that's a letter, is it? It's hard to tell. I don't know if you're supposed to shoot the letter or if you pick it up. I can't remember. I do remember my mate playing this. But I was jealous of him, so I didn't want to watch the game. Because I couldn't have it on my C64, I didn't want to see it. Which was daft, I know. I've got no idea how to actually increase the speed. Is that a letter M, possibly? Might well be. But yeah, really nice game. If vector graphics mixed with puzzle stuff is your bag, then go and check out Starion. Sticking with stars, Starquake. This was released by Bubble Boss. Now I'd actually forgotten all about this game. This was quite an early platform game in the same vein as sort of Underworld. Really nice wee graphics. Quite cute. You play the part of, I don't know what that's meant to be. Starquake possibly? I don't know. But really nice little game. Again, there was an absolute abundance of these games. I mean, you couldn't move for platform games like this in the Spectrum. And this was definitely one of the better ones. Now I know it was out in the C64 because I had it. These games weren't as common on the Commodore, so you know, anytime a decent one came out, I was always wanting to get a hold of it. Bollocks. That's it, don't fall on that thing. Then you can kind of build up little platforms. Kind of reminds me a wee bit like Rainbow Islands, I was going to say, where you can kind of work your way up the screen. But instead of rainbows, you're what you're actually doing there. But yeah, really nice little game. Definitely worth checking out if kind of in space platform games is your thing. So yeah, that's Starquake by Bubble Boss. Right, on to one of my favourite 8-bit games ever. In fact, probably one of my favourite video games ever. This is Super Pipeline 2. This was released by TaskSet. Now, if you've ever watched one of my live streams, chances are you've seen me play this game. I play it at any opportunity. Basically, the idea is you play the part of the gaffer, and you've got two little assistants who will kind of follow you about. And the idea of the game is to basically keep the pipeline open. You've got to try and fill up some barrels with, it doesn't actually tell you what liquid it is, it might be water, it might be alcohol, who knows. And to kind of scupper you in your progress is you've got all manner of little baddies that kind of come along the pipeline. Some of them will kill you, well in fact all of them kill you. Some of them will make holes in the pipeline. And so you've got to unblock them. Now the only way to unblock them is to pick up one of your little guys. You've got two little helpers, and they will kind of unblock it, fix the pipe. And if you're going to die, you can sacrifice one of your wee guys because they basically replenish themselves, whereas you've only got 3 lives. But it's an absolute cracking game. Not quite so struck on this version. I mean, graphically it looks alright, but the big thing for me about this game is the music, and sadly the Spectrum doesn't have that. But you know what? It's still an awesome game, so I suggest you go and check it out. That's Super Pipeline 2. Right, next this is Tapper. which is an arcade conversion. The idea being is you've got to serve drinks to various customers. You do that by just holding the fire button in. You need to make sure you don't serve any beer where there's not actually a customer ready to accept it, because if you do, the beer will smash against the wall and you'll lose a life. And what you'll also get sometimes is, once the customer finishes a drink, they'll throw their glass back, and you've got to make sure you you don't let it hit the floor. So it kind of feels a bit like one of these real early Nintendo Reflex games. I mean, the graphics are nice, but the gameplay is very simple, but it's good fun to play. Damn it. On occasion you'll get like dancers appearing on the stage, and when that happens is the customers will stop what they're doing and they'll face the stage, so you need to be careful you don't throw a pint of beer when they're not paying attention, because again, if you do that, it smashes and you'll lose a life. But it's a great wee game. I mean, the arcade one's nice to check out as well. So that was Tapper. This one, Tau Ceti. This it's a strategy game. It was out for the C64, though it wasn't really my cup of tea. I've really got no idea as to what you're actually supposed to do. I mean, I've got the demo mode running just now, but it's got nice graphics. And again, I can't remember what the name of the guy that programmed it, but he is a famous programmer, and it was extremely popular. But yeah, it's a game that I never ever really tried to play. I think this was released by Beyond Software, if I'm not mistaken. But nice atmospheric graphics, and it's a game probably that the Spectrum lends itself pretty well to, because it's obviously got a nice fast processor for doing sort of graphics like this. Yeah, it's very atmospheric. Like I says, unfortunately I don't know how to play it, but go and check it out. Right, one you might not want to check out is The Fall Guy by Elite. Now, The Fall Guy was a programme that was on in the 80s. It starred a guy called Lee Majors, who used to play the part of the $6 Million Man. You might have heard of him, unless you're about 30, in which case you're thinking, who? The Fall Guy, like I said, it was based on a TV series. Lee Majors played the part of a stuntman. And this game is apparently, trying to replicate the programme. You've got to take part in a number of stunts. You can see here you're trying to run along the top of a train without dying. I've no idea why that guy is getting hit in the head with it looks like Minor Willie getting hit in the head with a mallet. No idea what that's about. But yeah, it's just a sequence of short little kind of mini games. I don't think it really reviewed all that well. I mean, it's you can make your own mind up. You can see they're all pretty much the same. You've got all modes of transport going from right to left, and you've got to try and run along the top and try and not die. Kind of reminds me a wee bit like one of these Infinity Runner games that you get on mobile phones, only not as good. So yeah, that is The Fall Guy. Right, next one is 3 Weeks in Paradise. This is yet another game released by Microgen. There's been a lot of these games released in 1985, I've noticed. Kind of following on from Everyone's a Wally, Pyjamarama. Yeah, this was another one. I think this was the last. I think this came out after Everyone's a Wally. I don't think it came out in the C64 or Amstrad. It might have done, but I'm not aware of it. But yeah, I presume you're playing the part of, is it Wally? I think that's what he's called. I'm not 100% sure. Nice graphics. Again, very similar gameplay to, the first two I mentioned, and also Herbert's Dummy Run. That was another one. You know, very, very similar. They did, you know, the Microgen, that was, I don't even recall if they brought out any other games besides these types of games, but they were really, really popular, and Spectrum fans in particular seem to absolutely lap them up. So if you want more Everyone's a Wally, then go and check out that. That is 3 Weeks in Paradise. Right, you're probably familiar with this, maybe not the game, but you're certainly going to be familiar with the title Thunderbirds. Yeah, based on the Puppet series from, is it the 50s or 60s? Thunderbirds were a massive, massive thing, and I think they were quite big again about 20 years ago. I never really got it myself. I was never a fan of puppet kind of programs, but you know, they've got a massive, massive following. So this was a computer game of it. And it's, you know what, although I wasn't a fan of Thunderbirds, it's actually quite a good little puzzle game. The idea being here, you control two different Thunderbird vehicles and you've got to basically swap between them, because you can see there you've got one that's quite fat and then you've got a wee skinny one, so some of the gaps need to be navigated with using the little skinny one, and vice versa. You've got some of the bigger ones you've got to use. So you've basically got to kind of flip between the two vehicles and try and figure out how to get there. It's a very, very simple game. I wouldn't really say it's a particularly good use of the Thunderbirds license, because I mean the program was all about action and adventure. Well, this is quite, it's more kind of puzzle game, but good fun anyway, worth checking out. And talking of checking out, this is Toy Bazaar. This was, I can't remember where, was this originally an Activision release? I can't remember exactly, but if my memory serves me right, I'm sure this was an early American game. I'm sure it came out in Atari 800. It certainly came out in the C64. And you know what, funnily enough, for an American game, it's one I don't think I've ever actually played. I think you've got to try and, I think it's a sort of a toy factory and you're trying to kind of keep the production line going. I'm not exactly sure, but I do know that it's, again, it's a game that a lot of people talk about with a lot of fondness. It kind of reminds me a wee bit like Comic Bakery, where you've got to keep the sort of production line open. You've got the raccoons that go along and switch the machines off. I think this is kind of similar. Well, it's as similar as it is as far as you've got to keep the machines switched on. But yeah, that's Toy Bazaar, and it's definitely worth checking out if you like kind of platform games. Right, A View to a Kill. This was based on the film with the same title, James Bond film. Oh, so that's a bit lanky looking. Yeah, I think it was Domark that brought this out. They had the license to bring out all the make computer games of all the James Bond films. And personally, although I wouldn't say I'm a massive James Bond fan, I did enjoy this film. There's not really been a good computer game based on James Bond, probably apart from GoldenEye on the N64, even though I'm not a fan of that. Yeah, there's just, on the 8-bits, there were always a collection of wee mini games, and they were never really that well put together. And I don't think this one is any different. I didn't play this in the C64, I had really no interest in it at all, but I remember my mate having this, playing on the Spectrum. He quite enjoyed it, but that's because he was a massive 007 fan. So I think if you're a big James Bond fan, then you may want to check it out. But if you're not, then probably best avoid. Right, you don't get any bigger classics than this. This is Way of the Exploding Fist by Melbourne House. This is an absolutely cracking beat 'em up. It's probably the first best beat 'em up. Before this came along, you know, there was a couple of kind of fighting games, but there were really nothing to write home about. And Melbourne House brought this out, and it just changed everything. Some people will say that International Karate by Archer McLean has taken it up a level, you know, from a sort of graphical point of view, technical level. Possibly, but you know, my heart will always lie with Way of the Exploding Fist. Never really played the Spectrum one. I mean, the graphics are really, really nice, really, really well drawn. Animation's pretty damn good as well. The thing that's missed in this version that is a massive part of the Commodore 64 one, and that's the music. The music in the C64 is just awesome. It really, really is, and it really, really helps to kind of add to the atmosphere of the game. But yeah, if 1-in-1 beat 'em ups is your thing, then you know this is a great game. Obviously, it's the same enemies you've got, but the whole point of it being is you've got to try and kind of work your way up. You know, the different dans. I don't know if you actually ever get to the end of it. I don't think you do. I think it just gets harder and harder and harder. One little tip: if you're going to play this game, don't keep using the leg sweep, because a lot of people said, "Oh, it's crap because you can complete the game using the leg sweep." Well, yeah, you can, but you know what? You want to play it properly, and doing one move isn't the way to do it. But yeah, that's Way of the Exploding Fist. This is West Bank. Now, I couldn't actually find an English version of this, but it's pretty self-explanatory. This is based on the game Bank Panic, whereby you've got to try and 3 doors open, and if somebody appears handing you money, then you don't shoot them. If a young lady appears, you don't shoot her. If somebody appears either with a bomb or a gun, then you shoot them. You get the wee guy there that gets little bombs that appear in his head. You've got to try and shoot all the bombs as quick as you can, and you use the sort of 3 keys to pick. It's actually a really, really nice game. I mean, it's like I said, it's based on the arcade game Bank Panic, but this one is really, really nice. So yeah, basically when you get a wee baddie appear behind the door with a gun like that on the right, then you shoot him. And sometimes you get a goodie appearing and then he's pushed out the road by the baddie, so again you've got to shoot him, but you need to obviously time it better. But it's quite an addictive little puzzle game. I don't recall this being in the C64. It may well have done, but I don't remember playing it. But that is a really good version. Right, Wizard's Lair. This is very, very similar to Attic Attack. Very, very similar. It's got the same kind of sound effects, similar graphics, the maps. You can tell this has absolutely been influenced by Attic Attack. I think it did review pretty well. I mean, Attic Attack's a classic. It really is. But you know, like I says, Spectrum owners absolutely lapped up these kind of games, so there was always loads of them to play. And I know that, you know, Wizard's Lair was one of the sort of the better ones. I think this was by Bubble Bus, if I'm not mistaken. It did come out in the C64. I'm sure I remember playing it. I'm sure it did. But yeah, you pick up objects. You've got them on the right hand side. I don't really know what the idea of the game is, but yeah, you just go from screen to screen, shoot stuff, pick up stuff, and try and complete the game. That's Wizard's Lair. Right, World Series Baseball. You're thinking, why the hell did they release a baseball game in the UK? Because let's be honest, 99% of people in the UK have absolutely no interest in baseball. I, however, was that 1% because I actually played baseball for a team, and we were the Scottish champions in 1992, no less. So there you go. But yeah, this was released under the Imagine label, which was owned by Ocean. Now, the strange thing was, all the other Imagine games released by Ocean were all based on, apart from Comic Bakery, were all based on arcade conversions. But this was the very, very first one that came out. And it's actually a really good game. It's got really nice presentation. You'll see there, it's got the big screen, excuse me, which you have to use to obviously try and hit the ball, something I'm not doing particularly good at. But yeah, I mean, baseball was quite a popular sport on video games, even though in the UK really nobody was interested in it. But you know, if you like sports games, why not give it a try? It is good fun. You can play 2 players, and you even get after, I don't know, I think it's after the second or third innings, you get the cheerleaders come out and do a little dance. So you know, there's that incentive to keep you playing. So yeah, that is World Series Baseball. Right, this is a classic. Again, this is one of Imagine Software's. This is Year Kung Fu. Now, this version on the Spectrum was actually programmed by a guy who lived not far from my mate. And I always remember, we both thought this is amazing because me and my mate loved the arcade version of this. And, you know, we were both super excited about waiting for this to come out. And I've got to say, I was not disappointed when the C64 one came out. But the Spectrum one is nice. Yeah, it's kind of monochrome graphics as you would expect. Sound is limited, but the graphics look really nice. And they move pretty smoothly, and they play, you know, it plays pretty quick as well, which is important for an arcade beat 'em up. But this is a great game. I would love to see a sort of remake of this, but sticking with the same kind of graphics, just maybe updating them for a modern system. I know there was a version of this that came out on the Xbox 360, but I don't think it was that good. Can't remember. But this is a cracking game. You fight, I think it's 10 different opponents. Each one gets more and more difficult. But cracking game. That is Year Kung Fu. Right, Zaxxon. You knew this game was coming because we're up to Z, and how many other games begin with Z? Yeah, this was based on the arcade game by Sega. And it was one of the most impressive games, or one of the most early impressive games, and the reason being is because it was kind of pseudo 3D. You know, we'd never seen 3D before until this game came along, and it just looked awesome. So there was an absolute plethora of Zaxxon clones that came out in the early machines. But this was an official conversion, and it actually looks and plays pretty well. You need to avoid the walls. You've got to obviously use, you can see there, you've got a little shadow at the bottom. You need to use that because that gives you an indication as to actually where you are in the screen. Pulling back makes you climb, pushing forward makes you descend. But there were, like a lot of the early games, there were quite a few unofficial copies of these games, and Zaxxon was no exception. There was quite a few, probably with some kind of strange name that sounded very, very similar to Zaxxon. But yeah, this official one does look good, and it plays really well. Yeah, so if isometric 3D shooters is your thing, then you can do worse than checking out Zaxxon. Right, and to finish off, what can we say? This is Zoids. Yes. This was a game that was based on a toy. A kid-on toy. I mean, seriously, you know. And it's kind of a strategy-based game that uses icons. There was a few of these came out and I just couldn't get to grips with that at all. If anybody can actually figure out how to play the game, and even more importantly doesn't lose the will to live playing it, then you're a better man than me. I never had it on the C64, fortunately, but it's worth loading on the C64 just for the music. It's got an absolute cracking Rob Hubbard soundtrack. But apart from that, I'll leave well alone. So anyway, listen guys, that is it. If anyone has stuck to the end, thank you very, very much for doing so. That's 2 hours and 40 minutes. I will probably start doing that was the year that was for the Commodore 64. As you can probably appreciate, these do take a long time to put together. But I hope you enjoyed watching it, guys. And as always, thank you very, very much for watching.